if you don't know where to start, finding your calling or your purpose, it's like start where you're mad or afraid. That's where I always, and I think it was Tim Ferriss. He used to say it on his podcast all the time, and I cannot remember who originally said it, but start where you're angry has always been a really good place for me to start. And being afraid, I'm in a phase right now where I'm forcing myself to do things that I'm afraid of doing.
You are now listening to the Going North podcast, where you'll receive tips and techniques to advance yourself. I'm your host, Dom Brightman, and every week we're going to be hearing from an author who's going to share their expertise to help you charge forward in life. On a quick side note, be sure to check out Going North the book. It's available in ebook, audio, as well as paperback form for those who love to read a traditional book. Now let's get on with the show. Check it out, check it out, check it out. Going North podcast, baby. It's gratitude time. For those who don't know yet, I've released my newest book called Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success, available on Amazon.com and wherever books are sold. And to help launch this book, there was a secret group of elite performers that I called the STC Elite. And one of those members is a good friend of mine. A good friend of mine indeed. She is not only a member of the STC Elite, known as the Stay the Course Elite book launch team, she's also one of my mastermind buddies in our club I like to call the Advancement Angels. And this lady right here is the amazing Amy Porter. She is a home organizer with her own business called Your Life Less Messy. And this wonderful lady right here, she actually came into my life through Toastmasters. And I was just amazed at how she basically took our old box of materials and all of our stuff with all of our club tools, and it was a complete mess. It was disorganized. I got to tell you, our club, we meet on Wednesday evenings, and it's usually 9 o'clock when the meeting ends. Sometimes we go late. And when you're the person in charge of that bin, you just dump everything in there and you just go about your business because you're trying to get home or at least get out because you probably got work in the morning. Well, this wonderful lady right here, she definitely made our lives less messy for that bin, and she organized it so well. It's like, man, do I even touch this thing? It's like so pristine and so sacred. It's like the folders were aligned and all this other stuff. But long story short, she made a ta-da moment happen. It's like a magic moment. And humans know how to do magic, ladies especially. And she did magic on that, as well as some of the other folks that I've seen her help out with their clients and everything. And she has a really kind heart. She has a really good heart. You can feel the warmth coming from this wonderful human being. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're in the DMV area, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, you need to hire this woman to help make your life less messy via your home, because she's a home organizer. She is definitely going to help you see a change. And I'm not just talking about quarters, dimes, and nickels here, but a definite change. So I'd just like to thank you, Amy, for being a part of the STC Elite. And today on the Going North podcast, where first-time authors get their chance to have their voices heard to promote their goods and wonderful services, we're back at you again with another author, but not just any author. I have to say, thinking back on this podcast, I think this is probably really the first children's picture book author I've actually had on this podcast, which is amazing. And this wonderful author right here, she is a long time believer in fairy tales. I'm talking longer than a prairie dog, maybe even longer than a wiener dog. Heck, probably longer than the Great Wall of China. But while reading to her own daughter, she noticed a reoccurring theme of the princess being saved by the prince. Not the one with the great R&B music. But she wrote this book for all the princesses who were saving themselves. This wonderful author right here has two daughters, one prince, and a gaggle of animals at her residence just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And she hopes to write more books featuring courageous girls. And in this age of female empowerment, this is the perfect time for this type of book. And you're probably wondering who this wonderful lady is who connected us thanks to the wonderful Debbie Merrick of Girls with Vision. It's the one, the only, Jody Vallee Smith. How are you today, ma'am?
I am doing fantastic. What a great introduction. I want to just carry you around with me and introduce me to everyone that I meet. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, then I can beatbox while you talk with people.
Perfect.
Just imagine your daughter's face like, who's this strange guy?
Oh, she would love it. Are you kidding? She would love it. My older one would, at least.
Oh, good. Okay, it's usually the older one or one of the younger ones. Like one of them's like, okay, this is too creepy. What are you doing?
That's right. And I am in Minneapolis. So you said Prince. I am like in Prince land, the Mecca of Prince.
Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, man. Oh, gotta love that one. This is perfect indeed. Well, as with all introductions, there's going to be some cavities that I miss and need your wonderful dental work to fill in those cavities. Am I filling in some gaps where I may have missed some things?
Oh, sure. Well, you caught the first time children's book author. So prior to that, I was in interior design and I ran my own furniture store for a decade. So that's what I did before this. But as a lot of people with a couple children will know, once everything started happening at one time and there was too many balls in the air, and I just didn't like juggling that many balls on a daily basis. I'm not that good of a juggler. So I closed down my store and made the decision to move to Minneapolis to stay at home with my daughters. And then kind of in that first summer, because they had been in daycare before, I was just watching them. It was so fun. I just watched them play for the whole summer. And so the book was literally my hand hit the paper and I could not write as fast as it was coming out of my brain. After watching them, during the day, doing very different, I'd be reading them these princess books at night, but during the day they were in princess dresses, but they were playing Ninja Warrior and making race tracks out in the front driveway and doing math and science. And they just didn't present like these sweet little princesses that were trained in etiquette. And there was another storyline that their mothers or their stepmothers were usually trying to kill them or like lock them in a tower somewhere. And I liked to believe that I had a different relationship. So I was hoping. So that's kind of how the book was born, but it wasn't born until I kind of took care of some other, stopped doing the other things that were not filling me up, if that makes sense. So the first step was getting rid of all the things I was doing that was not my purpose, if you want to call it that. And then now it only took me, I laugh all the time when people say, how long did it take you to do this book? Well, I was staying at home with my daughters, like I said. It's a children's book, so it's 26 pages of writing and illustration, and it took me 5 years. So let's just let that sit right there for anyone who thinks that they cannot get stuff done fast enough. Like a 26-page book took me 5 years, but it is done and it is out in the world.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I mean, hey, the writing part, that's probably the easy part. It's just the illustration part because you had to outsource that part, right?
Yeah, I wish there's a lot of people in this industry that can draw and write. I just can't even imagine. It would be so much easier than trying to explain what's in your head to an actual person but I can't draw stick people. I mean, you should see some of the pictures I would draw to send her this is what I'm thinking. And she'd call me back and, what is that? I'm like, well, that's a tree. That's the princess. It was pretty funny. Thank goodness I had an illustrator. Let's just say that.
That's right, indeed. Come on, not even one stick figure.
I mean, they're okay. I'm like an 8 out of 10 on stick figures, but if I get anything else in that drawing, it's not good. But
8 out of 10 on stick figures. All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at those. But then, like I said, outside of that, I can't. Nothing. No facial expressions.
I think you're probably beating yourself up too much on that one.
Well, I don't know. I'll send you a picture. I'll send you one of my pictures that I sent Glenise, my illustrator, and you can let me know if I'm exaggerating. I think you'd be surprised that someone who likes to make art is a really, really bad drawer. Like how bad of a drawer I actually am. But like everything else, I'm continuing to work at it, and the only way is up, right? Just got to keep practicing.
Oh, you are right indeed. The only way to head north. So went from interior design to book design by hiring an outside illustrator with all the moving and whatnot. So I guess, do you think that any of your, I guess, past life per se as an interior design may have helped you with, in a way, crafting this book?
Oh, definitely. I mean, well, first of all, my illustrator was actually a woman who was a customer at my store and ended up working for me, painting murals. I did a lot of design, so I would bring her in to paint furniture and fireplaces. And so she actually, every page in my book is a painting. She actually painted it.
Wow.
And then I scanned it into the computer, which is kind of a cool little tidbit. And yeah, I probably wouldn't have thought to do that if I didn't have her. And also, so much of design, there's what you put on the page, and then there's what's called negative space, or what you don't put on the page, which when you are in an area of design, that comes naturally, to make sure that you're not overdoing it too. But that, yes, I had a color palette. I stuck to my design roots on that. And I have always just I love beautiful things. That I've always been like that since I was little. I just like well-designed pieces.
Oh, yeah, that WDP right there. That's right. Not WD-40, but the WDP right there. That's right. Well-designed pieces indeed. And I bet you found some well-designed piece after finally publishing the book, right?
Oh, yes. I really didn't think I would get published. I just assumed I would self-publish, and really finish it so that I could show my daughters that I finished it. So the publishing piece was a surprise to me. It was a glorious, wonderful, spectacular surprise. And I've learned a whole another industry. Publishing is a completely different industry than, writing and designing a children's book. So it's been a fun ride.
Oh, yeah. Fun indeed. Fun indeed. Were your daughters your accountability buddies for this project?
They are always my accountability buddies. From now moving forward, their brains, I have to equate it to their brains are not as full as mine, because they remember everything.
Yes.
That I've ever said.
Yes.
Mom, you said you were going to drink celery juice every morning last month. Did I say that? I said that? Yeah. And it's, they hold me accountable for everything.
Yep. If you want to get stuff done and have someone remind you of everything, just have a kid.
No kidding. It's way better than a life coach. Way better than a life coach. or they're a lot harder, I should say. They hold me to the fire a little harder.
Oh, yeah, that's true. No filters at all. Life coach, like, oh, shoot. We're some of the adults here gotta keep the contract. Don't want to get sued. Kids is like, Sue, what's that? Man, finish this darn thing. I want to play Xbox.
That's right. Nothing PC.
Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So the first of many books and more to come. So any advice for those who are looking to publish their own children's book?
To publish their own. Well, here's what I would say. Make a good product. Write a good story. Make a good book. And I do believe now with the internet, social media, you can market yourself and you can sell a book. There's many ways to get really super creative in marketing, but you have to have a good product. Hire the right people. I hired an editor. I hired somebody, a woman who was an ex-literary agent to make sure is this story relevant? Is this something that people are looking for in the market? Just do it very professionally is what I would say. And then when you go sell it, it'll find its readers because you'll have turned out a good story.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is a team effort. Yes, indeed.
Oh, it's amazing how many people. I was starting to count up at one point how many people were involved in this book from start to finish. I ended up having people work on this book that I didn't even know I needed. I have one of my really good friends here in Minneapolis is an illustrator, and she has her own line on Etsy, and she sells here at local markets, and she designs calendars and stationery and cards. And she was looking at one of the proofs of the book, and she says, "You need me." I go, "I do?" She goes, "Yeah, you do." She goes, "You really need me to come in." And she really went in, and I credit her completely for making the book as purposeful and just pretty. Like, I think it's a pretty book because my illustrator and I had never done this. My illustrator was painting, right? So there's this, paint is this unlimited medium because you can mix colors. And so I would say pink, there's 500,000 ways you can make pink, or purple. And my girlfriend kind of came in because she's a professional and does this for a living, and, helped me create a color palette and helped me stay really focused on the picture and not get too much around it, because your brain can only take in so many pieces of information at a time, especially when you're a kid, but it was amazing. I didn't even know I needed her, but I ended up hiring a quote unquote designer to design the book. A lot of people touched this book. This was not, Monroe wanted to get out into the world, and she was going to figure out how to get into the world. She just used me as I don't know, because it was, a lot of people touched it for sure.
Beautiful indeed. It was like a Super Bowl trophy at the end of a Super Bowl game. Like the whole team's putting their hands on the top, rubbing the shininess.
Yes. And I think everybody on the ride was ready to see it finish too. Because it had been such a long time.
That's right. And then when the final edition came out, just raised it up like a holy grail. It's like, I finally have it.
Yes, I did. And I will continue to do so.
Oh, man, but that is so awesome. And I guess just shows the power of, like, I guess, serendipity, for lack of a better word, because out of nowhere, it's like it's telling your friends about this project, you're showing them the proofs of the book, and all your friends who are talented in various ways, and just opening doors to actually promoting the book in ways you probably never even thought of. And that's really just the beautiful thing about teamwork and actually telling folks about your goals and figuring out ways that they can actually help you out. And it's like, oh, wow, it's like you never think of one thing. Is like we get so bogged down in one thing or distracted by so many other things that there is like a side quest that leads to like the main journey.
That is absolutely true. And that really is one thing that I learned. I do believe, I love the word serendipity. Sometimes I call it magic, or, the universe talking to you. And that absolutely happens. And I believe that people come into the picture to help finish the project. But if they don't know about it, they can't do that, right? So the first step is you have to be willing to be vulnerable and say out loud, I'm working on this book. I think I'm going to write a children's book. Because you say that out loud and 90% of people just kind of stare right back at you very blankly and go, yeah, my uncle wrote a children's book too. It's like, yes, I got it. But you have to be committed. You have to be committed to turning out a good product.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because one time I had this idea for a leadership book. It was going to be a stick figure on the cover. Yeah, that didn't work out too well. Let me stop.
Well, I didn't say all projects will come to fruition, but
yeah, so I'll probably get a little bit into the Princess Monroe book. So it's really fabulous indeed, with all the pictures and the whole princess. Even got her playing hockey.
Of course, my oldest is a hockey player, so that was an ode to one of my muses.
Ah, that's right, the magical muse. That's right, the M&M right there. The rapper and the candy, or the candy rapper.
That's right. I like them both. I'm not sure which one I like better.
I guess depends on which one has peanuts, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Depends on my mood.
Yeah, dad jokes always ensue here.
That's all right. They're legit. I love it.
So any meaning behind the wonderful Monroe being biracial?
What's interesting is that I always saw her. I was also sick of everyone being blonde hair and blue eyes. I was because even Snow White, I mean, yeah, she's got brown hair, but she's blue eyes, fair skin. I was really frustrated with the lack of diversity in princesses in general. I just always envisioned her that way. I really don't have a good answer for that, because I've been asked that, and that is just how I always saw her. I always saw her as biracial, and I can't really explain why. And then, if you'll notice, now my book has been in the works for over 5 years here. So when Meghan Markle and Prince Harry got married, there was a lot of comments that my royal couple that Monroe had this very similar look to kind of Meghan Markle and her family. But yeah, I really, really have no idea. That is just how I always pictured her. I knew she was not going to be blonde and blue-eyed. And then when we started, that was one of the craziest parts of the process, actually, that I never considered when you're developing a character and then you have to figure out what she looks like and draw her on paper. I mean, I couldn't draw her on paper because stick figures don't sell that real. They don't sell well in the children's book world. So I had to, in my brain, say to this woman who I knew, this is what I think she's going to look like. And then she would draw something and I'd say, no, that's not quite it. And it took us, I mean, we went round and round and round, just getting her right took a few months. So that was interesting. That was a piece of the project I never considered, was just how long it would take to get your character to look how you thought she looked in your brain. But yeah.
Makes sense though, because I mean, it's like everybody has a big mind, whether they believe it or not, and whatever you put in it, it's going to come out in various ways. And it's actually good that you went that route of trying to be different in a good way and not being contrary just to be contrary, like people like to do nowadays. And in a way, do you think it might be prophetic? It's that Meghan Markle,
right? Perhaps I had no idea that I would be able to tie this book into English royalty, but that was certainly not the intention when I drew her. I wanted her to just not look the same as. And at one point, I mean, I had all these little girls in the background. They all got cut. My designer cut them all. But it was like, I had girls that were a little on the heavier side, and girls with glasses, and girls with curly hair, and girls with, I just wanted it to just represent what actual life looks like. because I just felt like so many of the movies and the books we were reading were a misrepresentation, to be honest, of what the world looks like. It was a very narrow perspective.
Oh yeah, you're right about that. It's a big world out there. Over 7 billion people that they're counting. There could be another billion we don't know about hiding out somewhere.
For sure.
That's right. They could have purple and green skin.
Right?
They're probably mad at the Avatar movie, like,
I
hey.
know, that is what just came into my head. I was like, what are those guys called in Avatar? I couldn't remember their names. The Navi? I can't remember their names, but.
Oh, yeah. Maybe the village people.
Yeah, for sure.
Full of macho men and women.
That's right.
That's right. Then the YMCA. Then the YWCA.
That's right. I've never thought about that one either. That's pretty good.
Woohoo! Oh, as beautiful Princess Monroe, being a princess of all trades and a Jill of all trades. So any idea for the follow-up book? Is there going to be like story of a friend, like, hey, Princess Monroe and her friends is like, all right, so one's the basketball player, or another one may be like a computer technician, or any ideas on the follow-up?
You know, it's so funny because you and my youngest daughter have very similar thought processes, because that's what she's looking for. She wants Monroe to find a buddy and have this, story about relationships. The one book that I have worked on, and it's probably 2/3 written, I just have to decide if I want to turn it into something, is about Monroe and a pet that she picks out from, the Royal Rescue, whatever, the pet rescue place. And she ends up picking out this like really ugly dragon. And the story essentially is that the dragon in her bedroom just starts getting so big and so big, his tail's like going out the window, and his head's kind of going out the door. And the dragon's really not that nice. He's kind of a nasty dragon, and he's not very cute. And basically I'm trying to have the dragon represent her inner voice, and she starts to her inner critic, I should say, not her inner voice, her inner critic. And she gets the dragon under control, and they learn to live in harmony. But as my kids get older, and they really are my inspiration, when I wrote this book, I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and now I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. And the conversations we're having are drastically different. The problems that we're, trying to get through are drastically different. And as much as I love children's books, and of course that would be nice, wouldn't it? Because now I know how to make one of those. So I'm really good at making things harder on myself. Now I'm going to probably try to go figure out how to do something else that I don't know how to do. But there's definitely, I would like to tackle somehow this social media. I always say, if you don't know where to start, finding your calling or your purpose, it's like, start where you're mad or afraid. That's where I always say, and I think it was Tim Ferriss. He used to say it on his podcast all the time, and I cannot remember who originally said it, but start where you're angry has always been a really good place for me to start. And being afraid, I'm in a phase right now where I'm forcing myself to do things that I'm afraid of doing. But I'm really angered right now by these teenage girls really getting their self-esteem or lack of self-esteem, validation, self-worth, all of that, from these social media applications. And I am in it right now as a mom. I have a 13-year-old, so she's like really in it. The 10-year-old's kind of coming up behind her. And I feel like there's just maybe a couple things that I want to go try to figure out how to make better. I think that the Princess Monroe, the whole point of the book is that she chases her curiosity and not necessarily the conventional story of Prince Charming, right? And I make reference to all of like Prince Charming being lame. I kind of caught a little bit for that. But like what I meant was Prince Charming, the fairy godmother, the shoes, the dress, all of the external things that Princess Monroe, like none of that matters because it's an inside job, right? Like anything you do of value is an inside job. And where you get your self-worth, especially for girls, because I feel like boys, and I don't have boys, so I'm just using this as a I'm guessing, but girls like come in with this kind of people pleasing, and they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and they're like nervous to say things out loud, and they kind of come in, not all of them, by the way, but just really helping them identify at a young age their value system and who they are. Because I think if they have a really good solid foundation, I think if any kid had a really good solid foundation, then the decisions they make moving forward may be drastically different than not having that foundation. So I'm kind of thinking my next project may just skew a little bit older, but who knows? I don't know. We'll see.
It's good not to know. That's good not to know, because then you'll eventually know, and then when you find out, you'll make this amazing project, get to tackle. It could be Princess Monroe. She grows up. She's now the super spy tackling social media. It's like if you get 1,000 likes, it gets slashed down back to 0. Yeah.
That's right. I kind of like that. I might be able to work with that.
Yeah, that's right. You got to get out and play with your friends, buddy. That's right. For real. Not the little smartphone gadget in India that's liking your posts.
No, and they don't even know. I mean, they don't even know all these people. You know, it's like I always tell my friend or my daughters, I'm like, you can't have random strangers like following you. You gotta, but it'll be, oh, it's a friend of this guy at school's friend whose cousins is a friend with. And I go, really? I'm like, okay. And that's how you're validated. Like today, that's where you're going to get your self-esteem from, is like whether or not somebody's cousin's friend's cousin liked your picture. You know, I was talking to her the other day about, I don't know if you've read that Instagram is talking about you won't be able to see how many likes another person has. The user can see it, but the public can't see how many likes. And I was talking to my 13-year-old and I go, isn't that amazing? Wouldn't that just change social media? And she goes, that's so dumb. How would you know how many people liked you? I go, no, that's the whole point. Like you're missing the entire point. That is the whole point, is that you shouldn't be looking at it, you know, grasping for whatever, 100 people to have liked the post that you did that morning, you know, contemplating life or whatever, taking a picture of yourself out the car window. I have no idea.
And that's actually a pretty good idea in a way, because it allows folks to actually just look more at the content and be like, oh, this looks cool. I think I'll just follow this person. And then it cuts into that whole vanity factor, man, because everybody has an ego. It just depends on what level of it that they're on with it. And it's, especially with social media, it just amplifies it. So in a way that could actually help folks get out of their delusions of grandeur and actually try to be more real about it. Because I mean, with social media, if you use it right for business and stuff, that's great, but just don't use it as your journal. I mean, use your journal or your diary for that. Don't put it all out there in the public for the world to see. And those who don't do it, and you see all the good stuff, don't let someone else's highlight reel be like a cancer in your life like that, because it's like they're just posting what they want to post. They don't post all the crap. It's like, oh, I didn't make up my bed this morning. Oh, my dog get crapped on the floor. I'm not going to take a picture of that and put it on the Instagram so y'all can like the dog poo on the page. Like, no.
That's right. And I don't think these kids realize when they're looking at it that this is a curated feed. This isn't what actual life is, right? It is like you just said, it's a highlight reel, by the way, of only the good stuff. Like nobody's going to show you, you know, when they failed a test or didn't score the goal in soccer. They're taking pictures of all the rest of it. That was interesting what you just said, because when you were talking about content, I hadn't thought of that. And when you just said that, if people weren't focused on the likes, they may actually start to turn out better content. And that would be real nice, actually.
Oh, yeah, that's right indeed. And then Folks won't have to focus on trying to become viral, I guess. Well, then again, they still will, because I mean, there's more social medias than Instagram, but still, it's like maybe they'll be more focused on other things. Maybe. Just
Yeah, well,
maybe.
the user can still see the number of likes, because I was thinking of that from a monetize, an influencer standpoint, like how will they monetize now? Like how will they measure? But it sounds like the user can still see the likes. It's just that the people looking at the page can't see it. So if you were trying to get a sponsor, for instance, you could say, look, I get an average of 1,000 likes a post or whatever. Just nobody else would know that.
Ah, yeah, screen captures and screenshots. There we go. Yeah, that'll probably limit that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a way to do it. So that way everybody doesn't know about it. It's like, yeah, if you want to know, you can just ask, and then you might get an answer, you might not, or they'll probably just have to figure it out, and then they'll give it to you later.
That's right.
All that good magical stuff.
That's right.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And what I also love about the children's book is that it's a whole package. It comes with coloring pages and all about finding your happy.
Yay. If we could all do that, right? If we could all just follow the little, whatever, path, circle these 3 things, and this leads to happiness, it'd be great. We actually can. It's just that it requires some work, some inner work.
Yeah, not that 9 to 5 either. That kind of dulls it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yes, indeed. That's more of that 5 to like 3 a.m. sort of work.
Yes.
That's
The
your
side gig, the side hustle. For
Yes.
sure.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, with all this magical stuff going on and all these big plans for the future, if you were to go back in time and you were 25 again in this current year with all of your knowledge and experience and with this book published, what advice would you give to yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. So, if I was 25 now, I would travel. I think that everyone should travel to a place that they have not been, with people they have not been around, in a socioeconomic situation that they maybe have not. I think travel is so good for exposure and for growth and for people to get out of their personal bubbles, because we all tend to be living, even though we think we're living like out loud because we have the internet and are in contact with all these people. I think we tend to be, it's like our family, our friends, everyone we're around kind of tend to have the similar political views and similar social, all of these things. And so I think it's really important to get out of your bubble, go travel, meet other people. So, because I think that eventually gives you a broader view and more awareness as you go into the working world. I think it's a huge asset. And I would also just really spend the time getting clear on what I want to do with my life and what I want my future to look like. Because the first time around I did this, when I was actually 25, I think I was so influenced by other people's expectations of me and didn't really take the time to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. So I'm doing that now in my 40s, and I wish I would have started in my 20s, because I would be a lot further along right now. So you got to get quiet, and you got to stop caring what people think and what other people are saying, and just do the work and get really quiet and figure out what's your why. Like, what is your why? What do you want to do in the world? Why do you want to do it? And I wish I would have spent a lot of time doing that.
Oh, yeah. Solid advice indeed. Solid advice indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's right. Travel the world. Find out your why. Right after X. Well, maybe not.
A lot of times it's after NX. That's for sure. Then you figure out your why.
Oh, yeah. And then a random box appears.
Yep.
All right. Next chapter of my life. Oh, here we go. 50 copies of Princess Monroe. All right. Sweet.
That's right. I can hook you up. I know some people.
Oh, man. Beautiful indeed. Well, speaking of wonderful books, where can folks go to snag yours and keep in contact with you?
The best place to buy my book, although it is on Amazon, I love supporting small businesses. So if you go to princessmonroe.com, that will actually be shipped from a mom and pop printing place in North Carolina. And the quality of the book, it's such a beautiful book. The finish on the front's gorgeous. It's like the big nostalgic 9x12. It's gorgeous. So princessmonroe.com is the best place to get it, but it is available on Amazon. And I am at Jody Vallee Smith, which is JodyVallee Smith on Instagram. So you can follow me there to see if and what I do next. Because as we were talking about, who knows? I don't know. I'll do something, but I just don't know what it is yet. And then I'm also on Facebook at Courageous Girl. I have a Courageous Girl page, which is the name of my company. It's Courageous Girl. So anything and everything will come from that place.
Fabulous indeed, right there. That's right. Courageous girl. That's right. Raising up some courageous queens. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, indeed. Queens of their bubbles, not queen of domains. There's a lot of domains out there, and not just domain names either, but yeah, queen of their own bubbles. Yes, indeed.
I like that.
Yeah. Heck, maybe even a blossom and a buttercup afterwards. Now, so any parting words for our wonderful listener? Heck, if you want to talk even more about the Courageous Girl, feel free to fill that in too.
Oh, sure. I'll so that is, like I said, that's a website coming very soon. There's a temporary landing page, but that's the place where I'm going to figure out this social media teen tween. How are we going to get these girls? I like that to be their own queens. I want them to really have a good sense of self and a value system in place so that they know their why and they know it kind of before they forget. Because I think teen years can be pretty tough. And even if you go in with a solid foundation, you might forget for a little while, but then it'll be there when you're ready to come back after you've done some learning. So there will be more coming for sure. There's a blog there right now. On the Facebook page, I write frequently. And my parting words, people need to create and make art. What you're doing, a podcast is art. You're in conversation, books are art, movies, anything. I just feel like when people create, number one, they're fulfilled. I also feel like it reflects what's going on. Art a lot of times can reflect what's going on in society, and it's like a place where we can start to heal. And it starts with the creator, because we all need to work on ourselves so that we can show up as whole people and contribute to this beautiful, it is like a sunny and 70-degree day in Minneapolis, which happens, I don't know, 10 times. So I'm looking out my window and just thinking, I was born in Southern California and I live here now with all of this weather. And I'm used to 72 degrees and sunny every single day. And the weather here changes every 5 minutes. So I'm just looking out my window going, it is so glorious outside. So I'd also say go outside. Put your phone down after you've listened to Dom's amazing podcast and then go outside, and that's it. Get grounded and make art.
How's it going, you super special, awesome human? Since you made it to the end of this episode, it looks like you really enjoyed yourself. Since you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with at least 3 people in your network and tell them what you really liked about this episode. Heck, even shoot myself or the guest an email and let them know what you liked most about this interview, so that way they can stay inspired to keep pushing out great work.